Welcome, 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 everybody, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Sheyenne Kreamer with us today. Um, and she has done just a few conversations we've had, has opened up a whole new horizon, a whole new way of thinking about life and about our place in it. So I can't wait to introduce her. She spent over 20 years helping people connect their head and their heart with their soul's desire to create their income while making a positive impact in the world. Her personal mission is to provide physical, emotional, and spiritual clearing to allow more people to find energy to live in their purpose. As a full time RVer, her passion is to help create new communities that help to heal our wounds, house people that want it, and educate people on ways to become self sustaining that are in alignment with our Creator. That's a mouthful. That sounds like a lot.
Is. It is.
I know you opened a can of worms with me on that one. So
Oh, but
you're
it's good.
it's extremely good. It's even we're all at different phases of readiness. And
It's true.
having these seeds planted, they will sprout when the time is right. Um, and sometimes sooner than we expect. So tell us about
Yes.
this event we're going to have on we're going to do it. This is interesting too. We're going to do it on 9/11. We're going to
Mhm.
create a new message, a new vision for the future. Um, so I was hesitant, honestly, at first, and then now I've totally embraced it. And I'm excited to have a whole new conversation. So, we talked about being the miracle.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. And
so
and
where do we start?
okay, well, I'll tell you where some of this came from, and I'm not sure I've even shared this with you, but back in 2016, I got it was like this nagging vision that kept hitting me that I needed to take a group of women to Washington, D.C. and give them a platform to speak. I ended up doing that in October of that year, and we called it Women Leading from the Heart. And the reason that I finally was given on why we were there was to help shift the energy from so many people just wanting to go out and protest and beg politicians for whatever it was they wanted. And instead, I brought 12 women to the table who went and stood at the Jefferson Memorial and told people about how they were creating their own solutions. And they didn't need anybody's permission to do it. That is where a lot of this started and where a lot of my understanding came from in terms of, there's so many systems in our society that have encouraged us to just give over our power, whether we're giving it to doctors or we're giving it to politicians or we're giving it to, educators even. And all of these may be well-meaning people. They may be well-meaning in terms of what they're trying to do. But if we give all our power away, we don't understand how much we have the ability to be the miracle that is needed to be seen in the world. That's the big message here behind be the miracle. I mean, I tell people all the time, one of my favorite mini stories is my husband and I have come to believe that we all were born with a piece of a super puzzle. And if we all were actively engaged in building our piece of the super puzzle, and then looking for people like you, like the people in your group, who may have some similar vision, some similar cause or mission that they're working on, and you get together and you figure out how to snap those pieces of the puzzle together. If we were all engaged in that kind of activity, we would be living in a world with ultimate health, prosperity, and peace for everybody. The fact that we don't see as much of that as we want to means only one thing. there's too many of us sitting on our puzzle piece.
And that's so powerful. And there's a quote that you like to say a lot, um, and it has to do with, I'm trying to paraphrase because I can't remember it at the moment, um, about you can't make change by pushing against what is. How say that better? I know you have a great way of
Yes,
saying
yes.
that.
It actually is a quote from Buckminster Fuller. And he says, you can't create change by fighting the existing reality. Instead, you must create new systems that make the old ones obsolete. That's what I'm all about. I'm holding that space and encouraging more people to come into that space and figure out how they can be part of creating new systems.
It is so we can create another way of saying this too is we can create our own heaven on earth, our own quote unquote perfect society. Um,
Mhm.
and it makes me think of history repeating itself, and that's how it's worked in the past. I mean, when our country was born and we were, detaching from England, we at first tried to fight against the existing system, and then we created a new one that was better and more improved than the existing one so that it didn't become necessary anymore. And I think we've had a great 200 plus years of this democracy that we've created. And, in this is just my personal perception and opinion, is it seems to kind of have run amok and kind of got off here, and I think a lot of people keep waiting for the system to fix itself. And I think we're at this crossroads where no, we are the change. We are the ones who need to set up the new systems to make that old one that's broken obsolete. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. I think we're all at that crossroads of creating a better, new, more inclusive society.
Hmm. Well, that is true. And of course, if you go back to when this country was originated, it was actually originated as a constitutional republic. And Ben Franklin told people then, because a woman came to him and said, well, Mr. Franklin, so what kind of government do we have? He said, it's a republic if you can keep it. And that whole statement was based on the idea that it was designed for us all to be engaged. That's why we used to have town hall meetings all over the country and things of that nature, because we were all supposed to be engaged. Our voices were supposed to be heard. And, my husband ran for governor of North Carolina in 2012, and it was the most horrifying thing that we ever saw in terms of the amount of corruption in the system. I mean, my husband was bringing to the table a lot of the kinds of things that we're talking about today and that you and I have been talking about in terms of how to create this different environment. And there were people in both parties who loved what he was talking about, but the system shut him down, did not want him to be heard. And so, that's when we kind of adopted the Buckminster Fuller philosophy and said, well, if that system is too broken to create the change we want to see, then let's start building a new one. And that's what the Unity for Wellness and Peace system is all about. And especially to engage our small business community or people who may even have an idea for being a small business of some sort, because I'm pretty sure you'd agree. Small business owners are some of the best problem solvers on the planet. So why are we waiting for politicians to fix things? I don't know that they have a lot of incentive to do that.
Well, and
Personal opinion.
like your husband, they may have the best intentions in the world, but if they're trying to implement it into a broken system, then
Yes.
it's like going
That's it.
upstream without a paddle.
That's exactly it. And it will keep pushing you backwards. We saw that in full force. So, yeah, so that's what your event is really designed to be is those initial initial steps and a little bit of knowledge about how we can be the miracles that we're all seeking. Because, it's first about getting your head and heart connected and make sure that if you've got something on your heart that feels like a passion, a purpose, a mission. And once you've got that feeling, then being able to connect with other people. And we've done this in two different places with two very different groups of people. So sometimes when we bring groups together, we might find a group that says, oh, I want to, I remember a room we had one time, and there was a group that wanted to help seniors, a group that wanted to help youth, a group that wanted to help women. They all divided up that way in accordance with who they wanted to serve. And then another time we were somewhere else, and in that room, we had a big group of people who divided up into groups, and we had a group that wanted to work on improving the education system, and a group that wanted to, work on justice issues. And, so they went totally into let's tackle our own version of some of these systems. And then the other group was let's figure out how to serve these populations. Both are extremely valid and both can create amazing results.
And the key thing underlying message that keeps coming through for me is it takes a village, it takes a community. I think a lot of us have been solopreneurs for way too long and trying to prove our own ways and everything that we forgot that collectively we can do so much more than we can individually.
That's it. And it's this another interesting piece is that I never would have believed that some of my training in corporate America would become so important in community development, because really this whole process that I'm going to be talking about with people came straight out of corporate. We used to call it quality circles. We called it continuous improvement. We called it, corrective action teams. All of those things that were used in corporate, in manufacturing to improve systems, improve things, are equally valuable to take into the community and be able to do the same thing. And, there's a very step by step process where, people brainstorm to figure out what kind of problems that they see in the world. And then they go through and pick one problem as a team they want to work on. And then they come up and brainstorm for, what does each person bring to the table that could become part of an integrated solution. And then, do you make a decision that you want to do a trial implementation of this solution? So that's exactly the kind of teams that I used to lead in corporate America. And when I finally realized that that's what I was being encouraged to do in the community, I'm like, the universe is so intelligent.
And just it's exciting too because I didn't really look at my own local community, and there were all these different nonprofit organizations that have a specific focus, but there was one in particular you and I were talking about. It's called Healthy Archuleta, Archuleta being the county I live in,
Mhm.
and it had different arms to it. And it's the first thing it started out is we had seven different. We're a little tourist ski town, so there's a big disparity between the tourist and survive the local people having service jobs. There's no industry here. And so the first thing was we had seven food banks between the churches and just local neighborhoods. So the first thing they did was connect them all and then get grants to help support them. Then they added an arm of backyard garden growers and creating a CSA where we could supply those food banks with good quality food and not just government handout white boxes with who knows what's in them.
Yeah, right.
And then what we were talking about earlier in changing the medical system and making sure that people had access to not just Western medicine, but alternative health
Yes.
care. and doing that through the food and through community. And it keeps, there's more and more arms in it. They even have a teaching program that they teach elementary kids how to grow gardens and stuff. So I really needed help. I needed to have like a practical um, visual to understand that this was what a system was and what it could look like, and that it can happen in all the different major areas you've been talking about, like education and seniors and housing, and it
Mhm.
just goes on, and that we, each of us, even no matter what level you're at, that there's either a community you can join or there's something that you can start.
Exactly. And, that's one of the biggest challenges that I see out here right now is that so many people have similar vision, but they think they have to do it all themselves. So we're all sitting in these little silos. And, the old saying, I believe it's an African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what we're really being encouraged to rethink and relook at right now is forget the going fast alone and let's get together and see how far we can go at creating solutions that bring health, wealth, and peace to planet Earth.
It is, and it will continue on for generations and be self-sustaining.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because that's another key component. And that's one of the things that I've been working on for a long time with our educational system. I have looked more than one pastor in the eyes and say, you got to understand, if we were made in the image and likeness of a creator, we were born to create. So why aren't you promoting entrepreneurship? And they all go,
Well, yeah, that's just it. There's this collective conversation, and I think we've talked about this, that I've interviewed over 200 women internationally now. And
mhm,
there's a collective consciousness that's been keeping us small and keeping us quiet and polite and don't rock
yes.
the boat. And in history, we've seen that the ones who do, um, there was a lot of repercussions, and they were very, very brave men and women that eventually change came. But I don't think it needs to be that anymore. I,
No,
you know,
no.
I, I think the way we're all interconnected, that we can do these grassroots groups that can grow and expand from community to community to community, and before you know it, we're all supporting each other.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's why my husband and I have been on the road for the last 6.5 years. We say we're like Johnny Appleseed. We're just out here planting all these little seeds in communities all over the place, and who knows how they end up growing.
Exactly. I look forward to you coming out here someday. Hint, hint.
I've had more than one person say that. I'm like, gosh, and we've never been any further west than Dallas. So,
Oh, it's beautiful here. I'm in Colorado on the western slope where it's gorgeous. It's absolutely
oh,
gorgeous.
I
So,
bet.
yeah, so we're going to provide the link below this interview, this for this course, in the comments that you can register for it. And also, if you have any questions for Cheyenne, that you can ask her here or DM her. Is there
Sweet.
anything else you want to share before we go today?
Oh, goodness. I'm not sure. I think I've said most of what's in my mind. I usually close most of my interviews and stuff with what I was already referring to is, we have got to get to a place of understanding that we got to stop looking to everybody else to create heaven on earth, to be those miracles that we're looking for because you know, and I bring this up a lot in my teachings, our experience base gives us unique abilities to be able to solve problems. And especially if you get involved with a team where everybody's got unique experiences, that when you bring them to the table and you can actually see some of the root causes of some of the challenges we're going through and be able to have ideas about how to solve our problems at the root cause. That's how we create our own version of heaven on earth. So, I pray that lots and lots of people get enthusiastic about this idea about seeing how they can be the change that we're seeking, because you all are the miracle. So come on out and let's be the miracle together.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.